Good evening. In tonight's Coast to Coast, the woman given 2 dangerous drugs on prescription. She says she's lucky to be alive.
An expert claims the southeast is set for an oil boom, more wells and more drilling. Also in the programme, the Royal Irish Rangers prepare to change the guard at Buckingham Palace. And the Beverley sisters return to show business after a 20-year interval.
But first, the woman who, for the second time, has become the victim of a drug that's been withdrawn from sale because it's dangerous. 4 years ago, Alice Stevens was taken the arthritis drug called Opron, which was banned because of side effects. And this week, another drug she'd been using on prescription called Meritol has been taken off the market. It's been linked with 8 deaths in this country.
Alice Stevens is one of 500,000 people in Britain who've been prescribed Meritol for severe depression. The company who manufacture it this week ordered all stocks to be destroyed after it was linked with 8 deaths in 9 years. One known side effect of Meritol is anemia, which Mrs. Stevens suffers from and is being treated for. She also has to take tablets for angina, ulcerated colitis and depression. For 3 years she's been in and out of hospital with stomach pains, and she blames Opron, the drug she was given for arthritis in her knees before it was banned. Now, with Meritol being withdrawn from sale, she's discovered she's twice been given drugs with dangerous and even fatal side effects.
Well, it sounds like I took Opera and I just suddenly realised that it's just lucky I'm still alive, I think.
You must be afraid to be taking any drugs that are now prescribed from you, that they might be dangerous.
Well, I am, because now I don't know how all this lot is reacting one against the other. You know, there must be some reaction now against this lot, perhaps, that's keeping me in the state that I'm in now.
Well, do you trust the doctors that have been treating you?
Well, I think the trouble is most of the doctors, their surgeries are too big and they don't talk to you long enough to actually find out what's wrong with you. You go in and they sort of blah, blah, blah and give you a tablet and say, come back next month sort of thing.
Do you feel you've been treated as a guinea pig?
Well, personally, yes. I feel, you know, that I'll give her this if that works. If that don't work, we'll give her something else. If that don't work, we'll give her something else, sort of thing, and so on. As you see, I've got a great list there of what I have been given over the last 3 years.
Do you think you suffered side effects after taking Meritol?
Well, I didn't think I did, but now I come to think about it, having taken anemia drugs for anemia, and I found out since they think it causes anemia, obviously taking the anemia drug couldn't have done any good. And now I've got cystitis, and someone says that it could be a side effect of taking Meritol.
The governors of a Catholic school in Bexhill are meeting now to discuss allegations that boys were caught sniffing what's described as certain substances in class. The allegations were made by Liberal County Councillor Jane Amstad, who says she made a surprise visit to St Richard's School and found boys sniffing the substances in woodwork and metal classes. But the governors and headmaster of the school have accused Mrs Amstad of dishonesty and are challenging her allegations. Meanwhile, 2 pupils have been suspended from a top Kent grammar school after claims they conducted a hate campaign against a teacher. It's claimed they sent obscene letters and posters to Cyril Mapley at Tunbridge Wells Grammar School. He was recently in the Guinness Book of Records for achieving a 90% pass rate with his A-level students. Mr Mapley says he doesn't know why the letters were sent.
An investigation's been launched into hygiene in the kitchens of 2 Sussex hospitals. One's been named in an environmental health report as St Helens Hospital at Hastings. Cockroaches were found there. And evidence of mice was found at another Hastings hospital which hasn't been named. The report calls for tighter controls on cleanliness in hospital kitchens, and it says protection from prosecution through Crown immunity should be removed. Earlier this week, Bevendine Hospital at Brighton was highlighted in an ITV World in Action report criticising standards in hospital kitchens. More than 500 students marched through the centre of Brighton today in protest at proposed cuts in benefit. They say proposals by the Social Services Secretary Norman Fowler to cut housing and supplementary benefit could leave them nearly £400 a year worse off. And they claim it would mean an end to rent rebates during term time and the loss of supplementary benefit during vacation. A 26-year-old man has gone on trial at Maidstone accused of killing an elderly woman and setting fire to her house. Mrs. Hilda Burt was found dead after the fire at her home in Lee, near Tunbridge, last June. In the dock is Neil Gibb, who is said to be mentally backward. It's alleged he went to a nearby pub with blood on his face and called for help the night of the fire. Gibbs of Meadowbank, Lee, denies the charges and the trial continues. A Kent miner who didn't return to work at the end of the strike last year has lost his case for unfair dismissal. Robert Birch was a face worker at Betshanger and voted against the strike, refusing to join the picket line. He claimed he didn't go back to work because he was worried about intimidation from striking miners.
A leading European oil expert has predicted the South is set for a major oil boom. The fall in oil prices this week means it becomes more expensive to tap reserves in the North Sea. But as the TVS programme Facing South reveals tonight, getting to the oil in this region will be relatively cheap. The big oil companies already have wells in Sussex, and they're investing millions of pounds. The wells are opposed by residents who say they threaten the countryside. But it's predicted that what we've seen so far is just the beginning.
There are still a very large number of interesting structures, underground structures, which potentially contain oil and or gas, still to be tested by the drill. And I expect that this process of exploration for oil, stretching from Hampshire and Dorset in the west through to Kent, will probably take place over the next 20 to 30 years. It's not a here today and a gone tomorrow phenomenon. It's going to be around a long time.
And you can see more of that interview in Facing South tonight at 10:30. Meryl.
French businessman Pierre de Saint-Luce is to appeal against a High Court ruling banning him from Fort Newhaven. Mr. de Saint-Luce, who lives in Brighton, moved into the fort claiming he was the owner because he bought the firm which used to run it. But yesterday's decision means the brewers, Whitbreads, will continue to operate the lease on the fort. They'll now look for someone to develop the site as